What is going on, guys? It is Jib Rules back with another video on the channel. This is a ball knowledge to fall asleep to. This time it is striker edition. Obviously you guys love these videos for some reason because the last one hit 100k, and I always promise when the last rendition hits 100k we make another compilation of all best bits from a different category. And of course stay till the end if you want to hear me yap on a bit, but I'll let you guys get to sleep. And also timestamp the bit where you fell asleep. I don't know how, but I always say it, so I'm gonna just keep saying it. In recent years, we've had the likes of Aguero, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Cavani, Suarez, Lewandowski, all playing in the prime of their careers. We were able to witness their brilliance, them bagging goals week in and week out. But slowly but surely, times are changing when it comes to the position of the striker. And it seems like some fans are just becoming impatient. And so due to this fact, people are now claiming that strikers aren't the same anymore, when in reality, we're just going through the motions. Because most of these accusations that strikers are not world class anymore are coming from the newer generation of football fans, the ones that actually grew up yesterday, you know, in the 2010s, and are now bringing their bad football opinions to the public eye. Bro, Lewandowski is still playing. Harry Kane is still active. These are still world-class strikers. How are people claiming that Luis Suarez is a retro striker? Do you want me to feel like I am 39 years old and finished in this career that I have? Now, strikers are not dead, but people need to really understand, and I've said this before, that football goes through transitional periods where tactics change, players change, systems change, things slowly but surely turn from new things to old things, just like strikers have. The strikers we grew up on that were in their primes are at the tailgates of their career now, so the new batch of strikers are coming in, and you know, they're just not gonna just appear right in front of us and become world class. They need time to brew, like a good cup of tea. And when that good cup of tea brews to its finest color, then we will see the world-class strikers taking the center stage. Because let's not forget that a certain man just strolled up into the Premier League, the best league in the entire world, and broke the record for the amount of goals that you could score in a single season. This brother scored 52 goals in all competitions in his first full season with Manchester City, and you're making videos about how there's no world-class strikers. You are living and breathing in a time where a world-class striker is being made. Now recently there's been a surge in conversations about the position of strikers in football and how the last generation was so much better than the one that we're currently living in. And let me tell you this, I am tired of trying to tackle this topic because it never seems to be finished. It just seems to me like football fans are expecting strikers in football right now to be the best players in the world, but that's of course not the case. And in other words, football fans are rushing the potential of strikers in football. I mean, like a lot of you, I grew up in the era of 2010 strikers, the likes of Cavani, Falcao, Luis Suarez, Lewandowski, Robin van Persie, all these top ballers that were getting 30 plus goals a season, and even some of them strikers still get disrespected. Even the era before the 2010s, the 2000s, had some of the best strikers in the world. Time and time again, strikers have been prevalent in football, single-handedly winning their team games. But that doesn't mean we should overlook the strikers that are in football right now. In this upcoming Premier League season, I am predicting that Erling Haaland goes crazy. A guy that will consistently bag you goals no matter how he's performing. A lot of people seem to shun him because he's not an all-round footballer. But look at the likes of Inzaghi in the past, who have also excelled in his position, scoring over 300 goals in his career whilst having no skills whatsoever other than the ability to beat the offside trap. Arguably one of the most exciting young players in football right now, consistently he is getting disrespected. And for me, it's so baffling because look at Kylian Mbappe, the rival to Erling Haaland. Man had an absolute stinker in the Euros, got a move to Real Madrid, and now all the faith is being restored. Bro, I know that Erling Haaland's international career isn't the best, but come on, put Erling Haaland in that France team and this guy's bagging goals. Erling Haaland last season, even though he was lackluster, still put up 35 goals in 37 games in all competitions. And I think he's just conditioned Premier League fans to think that his scoring rates are just normal. It's like growing up and your family forcing you to watch horror movies from the age of 8. By the time you're 16, you're watching every horror movie and you're not getting scared. That's what we're experiencing with Erling Haaland's goal scoring ability. This guy is scoring goals game after game, but still, we're not really impressed. And fans are just eager to see him fail. Go 1 game without scoring. Go 4 games without scoring and we are gassed. What does that say about modern football fans? I don't know. You tell me. You guys are trying to rush the potential of our young future. And honestly, the disrespect on the current era of strikers has to be stopped. Let's bring up Victor Osimhen, who's another striker with some world-class potential. You look at his attributes and tell me that he wouldn't perform in the Premier League, and you're just stupid. Blistering pace, a deceiving physical build, and the ability to just be in the right place at the right time. This guy is guaranteed to score goals in any league he goes to. But because people have not seen 90 minutes of him play and will not just go about on some random site and watch 90 minutes of Osimhen play, they will never really rate him as a striker. Another key man in the Serie A is Lautaro Martinez, and even though in between a couple stinky World Cup performances, this guy has scored goals for Inter Milan. He has been an immovable piece in that Inter Milan side and has been crucial to them season after season. And even though they went through a bit of turmoil, Lautaro Martinez again guarantees you some sort of creation, some sort of goals and contribution. When paired up with the likes of Lukaku, he was successful. When paired up with the likes of Marcus Thuram, again, he was successful, but nobody really looks at him. With 23 goals and 10 assists in the Serie A last season, these stats are undeniable. And just because 15 years ago, the same Argentine strikers that were in the Serie A were so much better, it doesn't mean we should downplay what he's doing for Inter Milan. But again, we got to come to terms with the fact that football has changed. We got these strikers that are not only creating, they're dropping back, they're scoring goals. Crespo was not doing that. Batistuta was not doing that. Then you had the likes of Gabriel Batistuta, aka Batigol. Batigol! Batistuta was an Argentine legend of the game. This guy was a prolific goal scorer that had a mixture of physicality and on-the-ball skill. And he is known as one of the greatest strikers from the 1990s and the 2000s. Batistuta was a goal scorer. In 94/95, he got 26 goals for Fiorentina, scoring in 11 consecutive matches that season. Then in the 98/99 season, he scored 21 goals in just 28 games, playing a crucial role in Fiorentina's title challenge that season. And again, this was him progressing with Fiorentina. You know, he kind of stayed there from when they were relegated and brought them all the way up. And then even when he moved to AS Roma during the 2000s, he still replicated the goal scoring ability that he had back then, helping Roma in their historic season winning Serie A in the 2000s. But this guy was not only influential for his club, he was influential for Argentina on the international stage, helping them win Copa America back in 1991 with his 6 goals. And then in 95, he helped them again. They didn't win that year, but still, he got goals in that competition. And I think one great example of a pure striker during this time was Roy Mackay. In the 2002/03 season, he got 29 La Liga goals for Deportivo La Coruña. And this was 29 goals and no assists. His GA was just goals. Roy Mackay summed up pure efficiency. And if you go back and just look at some of his highlights, you will see that most of his finishes are with 2 or 3 touches maximum. Mackay was nicknamed the Phantom in Germany and was a Dutch striker known for his lethal finishing abilities. And I think the one thing that really stood out for him is his efficiency in front of goal. And during the early 2000s, he was one of the most feared strikers in the game. And literally, he only offered you goals. That's it. Because he didn't really contribute much in build-up play. He didn't really press the opposition too much, but he just showed up. Now, after moving to Deportivo from Vitesse, Roy Mackay made a name for himself in this Spanish side. And it was that 2002/03 season that he really broke out onto the scene with them 29 goals, winning the Pichichi as La Liga's top goal scorer and also averaging way below, you know, the amount of shots that other strikers in the league were averaging. And I think the most notable performance during his Deportivo spell was when he scored a hat-trick against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. And this eventually played a direct part into Bayern Munich saying, you know what, I think let's just take him. Where again, his impact was instant, scoring a goal every 123 minutes. And again, during his overall time at Bayern Munich, he was a revelation, being their main striker for multiple seasons and top goal scorer, helping them of course win the Bundesliga twice and also get a DFB Pokal. Now, although Roy Mackay kind of spearheaded this title as strikers during this time being so clinical, how many other strikers during this time were also doing similar things in different leagues. And I think another striker that perfectly exemplifies clinical finishing is Ruud van Nistelrooy, another Dutchman that played in the same era as Mackay. Now Van Nistelrooy often gets overlooked when it comes to strikers in the Premier League, but during his time at Man United, this was a bagsman. He was the ultimate predator of the penalty box. He was the ultimate predator of the penalty box. And in the 2002/03 season, he scored 25 league goals. And this wasn't no small striker that was hiding behind defenders and popping up in the box. This was a beast, a physical presence, but also the ability to anticipate movements and get in behind when they needed him. Again, demonstrating that he wasn't always involved in the build-up play. He was just there as the fulcrum in the attack. The next season for Man United, in the 2003/04 season, he again got 30 goals in all competitions, whilst also making an impact in the Champions League. And even when he made the move to the Bernabeu in 2006, he continued that form that he had at Man United. In the 2006/07 season, he scored 25 goals in La Liga, winning the Pichichi aka La Liga's top goal scorer award, and also helping Real Madrid win the league that season too. And I think these things I'm going to tell you about Van Nistelrooy are really going to put in your mind how good of a player he was during this time, especially how good of a striker he was. With a Premier League Golden Boot in the 2002/03 season, La Liga Golden Boot in the 2006/07 season. He was also the top goal scorer in the Champions League in 2001/02, in 2002/03, and in 2004/05. And I think you start to see a common pattern when talking about these freaks of nature when it came to strikers during this time. And it all starts with an elder statesman in terms of strikers in football: Robert Lewandowski. This striker is like Shanks from One Piece, because it doesn't matter what era he is playing in, he is going to score goals and show up in the big occasions. At 36 years old, Robert Lewandowski is the top goal scorer in not only the La Liga, but also the Champions League too. He sits at the top of the scorers table with 16 goals. This is a guy that is clearly demonstrating that class is permanent. Ask an Arsenal fan right now, would they take a 36-year-old Robert Lewandowski? Of course we would. I would actually beg on my knees for Robert Lewandowski to walk through the doors of the Emirates. And to me, this is crazy. At the age of 36, Lewandowski is bagging goals for a club that is actually competing in all competitions. And comparing him to strikers of the past, you know, at this age, at 36, certain strikers were doing farewell tours. And Lewandowski's not just scoring charity goals, he's turning up in the big games. Scoring twice against Real Madrid the first time he faced them, and then once again just the other day in the Supercopa. And of course he would go on to bag against Bayern Munich in the Champions League when he revisited his former side. Personally, I think Isak should be a striker that needs to make a move elsewhere. I want to see him flourish in a team that I know can guarantee him a trophy or that next step up. He has the potential to be up there, neck and neck with Haaland for, we can go goal for goal, yeah? We can go GA for GA this season. He's got that potential, but when you're surrounding him with some losers in that Newcastle side, dry boys, yeah, guys that just kick at people for no reason, Almiron, that's looking like a chipmunk. Bro, bring Isak to Arsenal. Some of his goals are just incredible to watch. His performance against Tottenham, putting Van der Berg or I don't even know what that brother's name. He put him on his bum, slumped. Again and again, this guy, when he has not got an injury, he's not got anything lingering, and he decides to play, he turns up. This is the Somali Thierry Henry. We need him. This is Jamie Vardy, an absolute legend of the game. A guy that makes people think that the impossible is possible. This guy wasn't even playing professional football till about what, 26? And he got picked up and made a name for himself at Leicester City. He's gone to do so many things throughout his illustrious career, and one of the things that he did was go on a generational run of form. In the 2015-16 season, Jamie Vardy redefined what it meant to be an underdog. Jamie Vardy this season broke Ruud van Nistelrooy's record, scoring 11 goals in 11 consecutive matches. He was absolutely amazing and relentless. This was a striker that the Premier League had never seen before. This archetype of striker again had never been seen. It was like having a guy on PEDs up top. He was running at defenses like a madman, arms flailing, taking the ball off opponents, and also getting in behind and scoring absolute bangers. He had nothing to lose and everything to gain. This was a season for this underdog story to really be crowned as the one. And one goal that rings a bell is that stunning volley he scored against Liverpool in February of 2016. He also recorded 6 match-winning goals that season, making him the difference in these 6 games. Vardy that season was of course one of the main reasons why Leicester City did so well and eventually won the league. He also would finish the campaign winning the Player of the Season and immortalizing his impact in the league. Alexander Isak has also been making waves in football at the moment, but his talent has been prevalent for years. Because even before his grandioso move to Newcastle, this guy was a prolific striker for Real Sociedad. And it wasn't just Newcastle that were interested in signing him, it was the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea too. He initially made the move to Newcastle and we saw signs of something special.
You are my special.
But unfortunately he would be labelled as inconsistent due to a bunch of injuries that happened during his early career at Newcastle. But this season, when he's been blessed to be fit and available, Alexander Isak has been showing the world that on his day he is arguably one of the most well-rounded strikers in football. Isak has 15 goals and 4 assists in 22 games this season. And it's not just these numbers that are doing the talking, it's his on-field impact. Because every time I watch this guy play, I'm just only focused on him. He is dictating the game in so many ways, dropping deep to receive the ball, but also being on the end and finding pockets on either side of the pitch. This guy will pick up the ball on the right hand side, pick it up on the left and drive at your defense. And over the past weeks, his best skills have been on show against some of, the harder teams to beat in this league. Newcastle recently played Aston Villa, Man United, Spurs and Arsenal, and Alexander Isak scored in each and every one of those games, whilst also having an amazing impact. Because he wasn't scoring in losses, he scored in all of them games, and Newcastle also won every single one of them games. And I think the performance I'm quickly going to talk about is the one against Arsenal in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. Because not only did Isak score the first goal, but he pretty much assisted the second, and then this guy was off by the 65th minute. I'm sitting there watching Arsenal struggle to break down Newcastle, and this guy is having a shower. That has to be a humiliation ritual for Arsenal fans. And by the looks of it, this form that he's on is not stopping anytime soon. Because the Swedish international, Eritrean Thierry Henry, is really that guy. Let's not be acting like this is not the best striker in the league right now. This is a striker that every big side in the world should be looking at. And if we're being honest, Newcastle should be looking to just bolster their attack. Because right now, they have Isak, they have Anthony Gordon, and if they were to get a world-class right winger, that could be an amazing trio. Now, we've spoken about one Swedish striker, but I think it's time to talk about the Swedish Hannibal Lecter, a guy that has been feasting on defenders for about 2 seasons now. He is proving every doubter wrong, and I am one of them. From lacing up his boots for Coventry City, he made a drastic change in his career to play for Sporting in Portugal. And since then, he has massively stepped up in every aspect of his game. And since joining Sporting CP in 2023, some of his stats have actually been unreal. In the 23/24 season, he scored 43 goals in 50 appearances. Then this season, as of making this video, he's got 32 goals in 30 appearances. These are the type of numbers you get when you buy, a world-class striker on career mode and you're playing on like professional difficulty. Come on, man, get out of that league. Would he be able to replicate some of these stats in the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Ligue 1? Take away Ligue 1, yeah? Take away Ligue 1. But even when watching this guy in the Champions League, he is the real deal. I remember a goal he scored a few months back against Lille. The ability to just turn a man and just finish off so seamlessly is something that not all strikers can do. And to be able to be this big, but this nimble on the feet to do that is something that, Premier League fans haven't seen before. He's not coming in with a skinny build like Alexander Isak. This is a guy that's built rivals Erling Haaland, but his game style is totally different. averaging 1.93 progressive take-ons per 90 and over 10 progressive passes per 90 minutes too. I am dying to see this guy play for a big team in one of the top 5 leagues. This has to happen this summer, because I think then we will have a bunch of strikers that are really taking on the helm as being world class. And whilst we're on the topic of world class strikers, none other does it like Erling Haaland. Even though this guy has been on one of the worst runs of form in his entire career, he is still like the top goal scorer in the Premier League. And that's because he was so great at the start of this season. And now all of a sudden he's been written off. Well, no. Here on the Jib Rules channel, we don't just write off players due to form. We actually appreciate everyone. This guy is a bagsman. In 21 games this season, he scored 16 goals and got 1 assist as well, equating to a goal every 1.3 matches. Haaland also set a record of scoring 75 goals in 77 games. A record that took Alan Shearer, the top goal scorer in the Premier League of all time, 93 games. And despite his inconsistencies throughout the start of this season, Haaland was still the top goal scorer in the entirety of 2024 in the Premier League, scoring 27 goals and highlighting his individual brilliance. But at the moment his side isn't playing the best, but it doesn't mean that we're just going to write off the impact of Erling Haaland. Now, unlike many of you watching this video, I have actually never watched, R9 play a full 90 minutes live. I've only gone back and watched games of him playing and seen his brilliance. I watched the entirety of the 2002 World Cup just to, see every goal, and I made an entire video about it. But still, his career actually comes across as some sort of fever dream. Because growing up, I didn't even know that he was some legendary player. Me and in the playground, we just thought, oh, fat Ronaldo. This guy, who's this? I know Cristiano, I don't know fat Ronaldo. But when you look back at the discography, what he accomplished in such a short span of a peak in his career, whilst fighting nearly career-ending injuries. Moving from Cruzeiro in Brazil to PSV in the Eredivisie, this guy's transition was seamless. From 1994, after joining PSV, he scored 54 goals in 57 games across the span of 2 seasons. Then in the 96/97 season, he made a big move to Barcelona, scoring 47 goals in 49 games. Because of his season with Barcelona, he went on to win the Ballon d'Or, the best player in the world. He was younger than 21. This is not real at all. This is FIFA. This is Pro Evolution Soccer become a legend. And this peak in his career felt like a dream because it only just got better. After Barcelona, again, he made a move, flying over to Milan to play for Inter from 1997 all the way to 2002, with many moments marked by sheer brilliance. In his first season, he scored 34 goals. Then in the 98 World Cup, again, his performances were legendary, scoring 4 goals and getting 3 assists whilst leading Brazil to a final. And then of course, where the peak hit its tippy top in the 2002 World Cup, after recovering from one of the worst injuries that could have even ended his career, he came back, led Brazil single-handedly, winning top goal scorer, and won the entire competition by himself. But then after that, after 2002, the decline was just steady in his career. And I think it does go down to a lot of things, including injuries, hypothyroidism. R9's peak was so extraordinary that it almost seems mythical. And he is honestly one of the biggest what could have beens in football. Another player that is also in the same category when it comes to players that don't feel real is Marco van Basten. Similarly to R9, I grew up in an era where I did not see Van Basten play. But whenever I'm told or get to see some of the spectacular things that he accomplished in his career, I almost think, how did this guy exist? This is not real. A striker that played throughout the 80s, he was the pinnacle in his position. One of the original Flying Dutchmen whose career started at Ajax, where he scored 152 goals in 172 games, including 37 in the 85-86 season, which led him to win the European Golden Boot. But then he and 1990. But again, this is one of these guys that had this peak and then injuries just chronically hit him. He suffered a bunch of ankle injuries that slowly but surely led to the decline of his career, playing his last game at 28 years old and retiring at 31. Now, a player that I actually do remember now, we have to talk about Alexandre Pato. He was one of the rising prodigies during his early career. He was playing in the Brazilian league before being snapped up by AC Milan, making a move in 2007 for around 22 million euros, making him at the time one of the most expensive teenagers in history. And again, his peak years would actually feel like a fever dream. In the 2009/10 season, Pato scored 14 goals in 23 Serie A games, including a brace against Real Madrid in the Champions League. He also scored a goal against Barcelona in the 2011/12 Champions League, which everyone remembers, and I think they just know him from that goal. But again, it was these recurring injuries, muscle injuries, that slowly affected the downfall and the decline of his career. He had this trajectory to be one of the best, young strikers in football. But then what? We never heard from him again. This was a lightning fast striker that had the world at his feet once he moved to Milan. But unfortunately, his career just does not feel real at all. And another guy that had a peak that did not seem real to me is Bas Dost. I remember him playing for Sporting one season and scoring like 40 goals in a season. Genuinely. Bas Dost, he was playing in the German league. Then he randomly came up at Sporting and he was just bagging goals. This was Gyökeres before Gyökeres. Matteo Retegui this season has been an absolute revelation for Atalanta, currently having the highest GA in the Serie A with 21 goals and 3 assists. The Argentinian-born Italian striker is thriving under Gasperini. He's slowly but surely turning into one of the most clinical strikers in football right now. And, that might say a lot about strikers in football, but I did make a whole different video about that. But we have to pay the respect when the respect is due, because you don't just get to the top scorers of the Serie A just by being mediocre. You have to have some X factor about you, and I think one performance that kind of exemplifies that he has that X factor was the game between Atalanta and Juventus. He has been immense this season, and I think his play has been enhanced by the likes of Ademola Lookman and De Catalare, who have been either side of him, because not only does he linger around in the box, but he can drop deep, receive the ball and do link-up play with his wingers. But you guys know me, I'm not too quick to gas up strikers. I need to see more of Retegui. He might be the top scorer this season, but I've seen it before. I've seen Piatek be the top scorer, or go on this amazing run of form in the Serie A and then just completely disappear off the face of the earth. I need to see a bit more from Retegui, do it in the big games that are in the Champions League, etc., which of course Atalanta are out. So better luck next season. Another generational run that we have to talk about is from a snake. Robin van Persie during the 2011-12 season was insane. He had one of the most phenomenal final seasons of a player I've ever seen, and I was there. As an Arsenal fan, I witnessed this. This guy slapped 30 Premier League goals during that season for Arsenal, achieving the Golden Boot while getting no titles that year, only helping Arsenal to secure a Champions League spot. During this season, you saw him hit all these different shots, his iconic volleys being just the tip of the iceberg. Robin van Persie was iconic, and then through making this amazing legacy at Arsenal, we thought next season, let's make a dive for the league. If Van Persie's going to keep up this form, we got to keep going. And then we find out he's moved to Old Trafford. As an Arsenal fan, I was broken. I was on my knees. You look back at that season and see how he replicated that exact run of form for Arsenal to Man United, becoming one of the main guys. Batman being Rooney, Robin being Van Persie. They took over the league. And for these 2 seasons, I think Van Persie was the best player in the entire league. Widely considered one of the greatest strikers of all time, Suarez racked up over 500 career goals during his prime, winning 2 European Golden Shoes in 2014 and 2016. He remains the only player to win a Golden Boot in La Liga, while Messi and Ronaldo were going through their prime years, just showing his impact on not only La Liga, but football in general. This was a striker that had a powerful shot but a remarkable technical ability too, which we first really saw on display during his prime years at Liverpool. And it was at Liverpool where he would really start to dominate games, in 2014 ending the Premier League season with 31 goals, which would eventually prompt Barcelona to spend big money on the Uruguayan striker. And in Spain he would just replicate his form, being a part of a treble winning side in 2015 alongside the likes of Messi and Neymar. Leading La Liga during this time in both goals and assists, he showed that he was not just some background character, he was the guy that was making things happen as the striker. I'm telling you, in terms of an all-round forward that represents the 2010s so perfectly, no one really comes close to Suarez. Being able to drop in deep and just create a chance for himself, he showed signs of the peak strikers from the 2000s, the same ilk as the likes of R9 and Thierry Henry. These strikers that could just do it all and win a game by themselves. At times he was controversial and arguably someone that a lot of people hated, yet when it comes to just analysing his ability on a football pitch, you cannot deny that this guy is an all-timer. And alongside him, another striker that kind of led the 2010s is Robert Lewandowski, a Polish striker that is actually still thriving for one of the best teams in football right now, and in the season that we just finished, scored over 40 goals in all competitions. Yes, the longevity is insane. He turned goal scoring into an art form throughout his career, being eventually dubbed Lewandowski by not only Thomas Müller but by a lot of football fans. And it's weird because we saw him go from a raw prospect at Dortmund to being the best striker in world football and dominating the Bundesliga for years with Bayern Munich. He tallied 309 club goals during the 2010s, which was only beaten out by the likes of Messi and Ronaldo. And he was one of these strikers that combined a lot of the older traits of a classic number 9 and brought it in to the modern game. The height, the strength, the aerial ability and the two-footedness. He had it all, which honestly made him lethal when it came to poaching and being in the right place at the right time and finishing the ball into the back of the net. But at times where we only put him in this box of being a poacher, he showed us that he wasn't just that, scoring some long ranges during his time, adapting his game and scoring free kicks, and again continuously season after season proving people that doubt him wrong. Since the 2010s, he's now crossed over 700 career goals, whilst also winning FIFA's Best Player of the Year twice and kind of being robbed of a Ballon d'Or campaign back in 2020. And of course these two guys are the ones that I'm going to mention first, but who are the other strikers that were reaching to become one of the best during this era too? I think the first name that comes to my mind is Kun Aguero. Now Aguero spent the majority of the 2010s becoming a Premier League hero and legend of Manchester City, becoming the club's all-time scorer in the league with 184 goals. He etched his name into football history through brilliant moments marked by his goals. And it wasn't just Manchester City where he thrived also, it was when he was at Atletico Madrid before the move too. He was one of these strikers that was just remarkably consistent throughout his entire career, getting 20 plus league goals in 5 plus seasons, winning the Golden Boot in the 2014/15 season and winning 5 Premier League titles. And you also have to take into account that this was in a Manchester City side that was slowly evolving into a game where they didn't really require strikers as much. In and out of the side during the tail end of his Manchester City career, he would still pop up at big moments and score goals. And again, another caveat to this is that he had consistent injuries where they would pop up randomly throughout each and every season. And despite this, he still averaged the best minute per goal ratio of any striker, averaging a goal every 108 minutes. And what made him stand out so much to me is that this was not the biggest of strikers, standing less than 5'9" in height, yet his ability on the pitch resembled a classic number 9. And there are few strikers in Premier League history that can change a game as quick as Kun Aguero. And from one striker that averaged over 15 goals per season throughout his entire career to another striker that loves the number 15. Let's quickly give our flowers to Karim Benzema. In my opinion, Benzema is the ultimate slow burn superstar because time and time again he was overshadowed by the brilliance of the Ronaldos, the Bales and all the superstars that played for Real Madrid during the prime years. Yet his trajectory during the 2010s is completely underappreciated, and that's because he blossomed quite late in the decade, playing most of the early 2010s as a selfless striker that would offer up opportunities to those around him. But he knew what this all meant. He knew that this play style would win him trophies, and that's what they did. And even though he was seen as this generous striker that was giving opportunities to those around him, he still amassed an amazing, collection of goals during the 2010s. But when Ronaldo left in 2018, he stepped it up a notch, turning into this 30 goal a season talisman and a guy that was actually a predator in the box. He's a predator like just around the 18-yard box. He was scoring goals for fun. And from a striker that thrived in Spain to one that made his name known in France. Let's talk about Zlatan Ibrahimovic and his impact on strikers during the 2010s. Now, Zlatan's 2010 journey is stuff of myth, something like an ancient legend. This is a story of many different changes throughout a career, sufficing in a bunch of goals. Because the king strutted across Europe and scored goals in each and every league that he stepped in. Winning titles in 4 different leagues, he showed that he was impactful wherever he went. And by the end of the decade, he had tallied over 570 career goals. The Swedish striker must have been built in a factory, being 6'4" tall, but with the agility of a 5'8", little midfielder, achieving 30+ goal seasons in 6 campaigns. And when I say he could do it all, he could do it all. Karate kicks, acrobatic finishes, 30-yard screamers, headers in the box, poacher goals. He had 5-star skill moves on FIFA at one point. I was baffed. And for a moment during his tenure there, he was PSG's all-time top goal scorer. And it's weird because he could do everything that a classic target man could do, but more. Imagine a guy with a 6'5" frame playing like a false 9. That's what Ibra during his prime could do. He would lead PSG to 4 straight Ligue 1 titles from 2013 and would be a pioneer in the club, changing their legacy. And even at 35 years old, he would make a move to Manchester United in 2016/17 and score 28 goals, leading them to a Europa League title. Of course, people always talk about his Champions League legacy and the fact that he never won it, but in my opinion, he's still regarded as one of the best strikers during this time, but a striker that was honestly a lone ranger, a lone warrior that was on his own journey and never really sought to be approved of. Because as he said himself, a lion doesn't compare himself to humans. And from one striker that has an abundance of trophies with league domination to one that only just got his flowers recently, winning his first trophy just last season. Let's talk about Harry Kane. Now, Harry Kane established himself as one of the best strikers in football during the mid-2010s. Playing for Tottenham Hotspur, he won back-to-back Golden Boots in the 2015/16 season and 16/17. By 2020, he had amassed over 150 Premier League goals, and he was really making waves as a guy that was leading a side that was not supposed to be where they were positioned. And I think this is what stood out to me alongside with his well-rounded gameplay. He was a pure finisher that was able to play make and also had an amazing aerial ability. A sight that as an Arsenal fan I saw way too often, because time and time again this guy would score against my club, and if it wasn't a penalty it would just be a banger. And I'm only really mentioning him in this video because this is where we first saw the promise of Harry Kane, going from a prospect into an established world-class striker in the league. But in my opinion, his peak years have come in the 2020s. He also holds the record for the most Premier League goals in a calendar year, being 39. But all in all, when it comes to Harry Kane, I think the only tarnish on his resume was the fact that he was never able to win silverware during his golden years at Tottenham Hotspur. But when talking about another English striker that had a firm grasp on this decade, we have to mention Wayne Rooney. Because Wayne Rooney is a striker that bridged generations, with his peak taking place in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And you didn't even have to watch football to know that this guy was a superstar. Being on the cover of FIFA year in and year out, you just knew that this guy was a bagsman. During his peak years, he solidified his status as an all-time Manchester United and England great, being United's top goal scorer of the decade until his departure in 2017. He finished off his career there with 208 Premier League goals, only behind Alan Shearer. He would man his trade as not only Manchester United's number 9, but also a guy that could adapt and be a number 10. Slowly over the years his game evolved and he took more of a back seat, but during his prime years he was an aggressive, all-action striker that could take the game to any team in football. From breaking out onto the scene back in Euro 2004 to being an established player that is written in the history books for Manchester United, Wayne Rooney will forever be a great and has a legacy that people completely overlook time and time again when just talking about strikers and players during this era. And it's each of these strikers that brought something different to this role. But it's not just them that made it their own, because there are a handful of other strikers that played during the 2010s that also were standout players. Van Persie was one of the most clinical strikers of this generation, with his, goal scoring ability peaking in the early 2010s, winning back-to-back golden boots in 2012 with Arsenal and then 2013 with Manchester United. In 2012 with Arsenal, he went on a generational run, scoring some of the best goals you would see in any catalogue of any striker, and then he made a move to Manchester United and in his first season helped them win the league. A silky first touch and a distinct way in which he struck the ball, this guy is iconic to a lot of people's childhoods growing up. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, before his stint at Arsenal, was also a speed demon and one of the most feared strikers in the Bundesliga, bringing a pace that we hadn't seen before to this position, a raw ability, terrorizing defenses in the Bundesliga for Dortmund and then kind of replicating his game and bringing that to Arsenal despite them being in a rocky period. In 2016/17, he scored 31 Bundesliga goals, edging Lewandowski in a fierce Golden Boot race. He was pivotal to this attack and formed an amazing duo with Marco Reus. And even when moving to Arsenal, he would win a Golden Boot in the 2018/19 season and would be a key part of an FA Cup run that saw him score goals against the likes of Manchester City. Mario Mandzukic was this warrior-like forward that may not have scored you 30 plus a season, but had an immense impact on any club he played for. The Croatian is known for his Champions League final goals with Bayern in 2013 and Juventus in 2017, with the latter featuring an audacious bicycle kick that goes down as one of the best all-time Champions League final goals. Mandzukic's game was defined by his aggression and off-the-ball work. Pairing this with his aerial prowess, he was unstoppable at times and a key piece in a lot of teams that he played for, with major moments for club and also country. In the 2018 World Cup, I remember a goal that he scored for Croatia, when they were deep in their run. And another comparable striker to him during this time is Edin Dzeko, the Bosnian diamond. This guy is still playing to this day, a quiet striker that shined across European clubs, beginning the decade by leading Wolfsburg to their first Bundesliga title in 2009 along with the help of Grafite. This guy then eventually moved to Manchester City and sealed his name as one of the best strikers in football, scoring the 92nd minute equaliser in Manchester City's famous 2012 Premier League win with that Aguero goal. Who was the guy that tied up the game, put the ball up top and said, "Let's run it"? It was Dzeko. He would go on to win 2 Premier League titles and tallied over 50 goals whilst not being the main guy up top. And then after moving to AS Roma in the 2016/17 season, he absolutely exploded. Not physically, but in the goal scoring front, winning top goal scorer with 29 Serie A goals. And another great thing that happened in his career during the 2010s period is that he captained Bosnia to their first ever World Cup appearance. Carlos Tevez was another one of these strikers that was completely unseen for a lot of his career, yet looking back, he was again a brilliant striker, a tenacious bulldog of a striker whose intensity actually froze opposition. He would light it up wherever he played, making waves in the 2000s for the likes of West Ham, Manchester United, but in the 2010s he would really cement himself as one of the key bagsmen in the area and the era. I guess he's a bagsman in the area and the era. Yeah, getting 20 league goals with Manchester City, but again, he scored goals during his time at Manchester United and was a part of an amazing trio that goes down in history. And it was Carlos Tevez's off-ball work rate that really made him key to every squad that he was a part of, with a low centre of gravity which allowed him to dribble past opponents with ease and just this immense ability to pop a shot from anywhere on a football pitch. Samuel Eto'o was also around in the 2010s, and though it was a twilight to his career, it was still a time where he was bagging goals. Arguably the greatest African striker of all time, this guy made waves wherever he played, with his prime honestly coming earlier from the likes of 2006 to 2009. And from one African striker that saw the tail end of his career in this era to another, we have to talk about Didier Drogba, aka the guy that would show up in all the big games no matter what. It didn't matter what defense showed up in front of him, he was getting a goal. It could have been the Trojan army, could have been Spartans, 300 style. If Drogba was in that war, he would have finished it himself. And a lot of people forget that Drogba's peak years were in the mid 2000s, not the 2010s, because in 2012, where his defining moment came, where he scored a header against Bayern Munich, this guy was 34, leading Chelsea to that title, scoring 9 goals in 9 cup finals throughout his entire career at Chelsea. He was the definition of clutch and hit a peak during the late 2000s and early 2010s, winning the Golden Boot in the 2010 season with 29 goals. As strong as an ox, great in the air, and an incredible ability to hit a long range strike. This guy would bully defenders to the point where Chelsea would take a goal kick, he would chest it down, turn and bang it. And despite it not going in all the time, he would create chances through this raw direct ability that he had. And no striker since has come close to this, again, power on the ball. You also had the likes of Cavani, El Matador, who was prolific during this time too. And I in particular remember his stint with Napoli in this side that was just filled with FIFA gems. Like, I'm gonna just keep it real with you. In the 2012/13 season, Cavani led the line, getting 29 goals for Napoli. Then came a big money move to PSG, which saw his form be replicated in a league that was seen as easier. And with that, his goal scoring inflated, scoring over 157 goals for PSG, and at one point being their all-time goal scorer before the Mbappes came along. And alongside one South American bagsman comes another in Radamel Falcao, El Tigre, who for one season was probably the best number 9 in football. From around 2011 to 2013, Falcao was unplayable. At Atletico Madrid, he scored 70 goals in 2 seasons, including a ridiculous tally of 17 in the 2010/11 Europa League. 17 goals in the Europa League alone. Some strikers are getting that in their entire 2 seasons at a club. He led the line at the likes of Porto, Atletico Madrid and even Monaco. And one of my favourite moments throughout his entire career is his hat-trick in the Super Cup against Chelsea back in 2012. Unfortunately, an ACL injury back in 2014 led to him missing, the World Cup with Colombia, but again, he somehow bounced back, and in 2015/16 he was injected into a Monaco side with young ballers with the likes of Mbappe in the squad, Thomas Lemar, it was Bernardo Silva, and Falcao was at the top, helping Monaco win a Ligue 1 title and led them deep in the Champions League, with my favourite goal of his being that dink against Manchester City in the Champions League. That was an amazing goal. And even despite all his setbacks and failed stints at the likes of Manchester United and Chelsea, he still amassed over 300 career goals. And that's what a lot of strikers in this modern game aren't doing. Scoring goals. Now, I cannot believe that I'm making this video, but strikers in football have changed, and I think they have actually changed for the worse. Now, previously I made a video talking about why I thought that strikers aren't the same anymore. And in all honesty, this video was a way for me to cope with the current situation that we are in. And after rewatching that video myself and then seeing the strikers that Arsenal are linked with this summer, I've decided it's time to make another video on this topic. So it's time to swallow my pride and accept that strikers are really not evolving. Darwin Núñez is definitely not world class, and there's about 5 strikers on the planet that are noteworthy. Now let's take a step back into the 2010s, which was a golden era for strikers. We had bundles of bagsmen that set the benchmark for the strikers that we have today. During the last decade, we can see that the average goals per game was 0.75. In the top 5 leagues in Europe, strikers were scoring a 0.75 average chance. That means they were scoring every 3 in 4 chances that they got. But after the last few seasons, that exact stat has gone down to 0.60, a clear decline in the position of the striker's effectiveness. Now, one major reason for this decline is the overall evolution of modern football tactics. The likes of Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp popularized the tactic of a high pressing game, where a team's defense actually starts from the front of the pitch, which therefore has increased the workload on strikers, making them over time less focused on purely scoring goals. Now, the role of a striker has also evolved. Strikers today are just expected to be more versatile. They're not just goal poachers anymore. They need to assist, they need to track back, and they need to create space for their teammates with diversion runs. All these new functions has diluted diluted their sole objective, which was to score goals. And in my previous video on this topic, I did discuss this, highlighting how modern strikers have to drop into deep pockets on the pitch to pick up the ball and help their teammates, which wasn't common about a decade ago. Right now in the comments below, name me a striker that you can confidently say is world class. A complete striker, a guy that is going to get you a goal no matter whether you're losing, drawing or winning. Instantly people will say the likes of Harry Kane, Haaland, Osimhen, Lautaro Martinez, Gyökeres, Sesko, Olivier Watkini. But none of these except Kane could even touch the greatness that was the strikers of the previous decade. The likes of Suarez, Van Persie, Cavani, Fernando Torres, David Villa, Samuel Eto'o, Ibrahimovic, Lewandowski, Benzema. But it's just not fair to compare the new strikers to the ones of old. Because let's just take a striker that played in both of these eras. A striker that was not only a pioneer of the 2010s, but is also still playing to this day. Robert Lewandowski is a striker that most football fans seem to forget. But after 557 goals in 756 games, I think you shouldn't really be forgetting his name. Now, what if I told you that there is an unknown striker that is outscoring every top elite footballer in the world right now? Yes, you heard that correctly. There is a player that nobody really knows about that is outscoring the likes of Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, and even me, Jib. I sometimes play Sunday League. Now, Serhou Guirassy is a Guinean forward that is currently playing for Stuttgart in the Bundesliga, and man oh man is he lighting up the league this season. He has got 14 goals in 8 matches. Do you know how wild that is? 14 goals in 8 matches, and to add on top of that, he's got an assist as well. The guy is an absolute baller, and I've been keeping up with him for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Unfortunately, he recently suffered a little hamstring injury. Hopefully he'll be back soon, but his rates are still incredible, and still nobody has got more than 14 goals in the top 5 leagues this season. The 27-year-old that Stuttgart signed permanently last season has hit his absolute peak years, his prime, and is showing out every single week. The other day I was chilling and I saw this video on my recommended. It was a video about every single shot that Serhou Guirassy has had, and like half of them, even more than half of them, go in the back of the net. Like, this guy's shot to goal ratio is insane, and his finishing is 99. Now, Stuttgart are a struggling team in the Bundesliga. They are not one of the elites, and last season they finished 16th. Guess where they are right now? 4th. With the help of Guirassy's contributions, they sit 4th in the Bundesliga. And for me personally, his attributes just scream prime Emmanuel Adebayor.
I have no words. I'm just so disappointed. I'm going to kill myself.
Now, if you don't know who Adebayor is, you are way too young to be watching these videos, because he played at Arsenal, Tottenham, Real Madrid. Now, my early years of watching Arsenal, I was seeing Adebayor up top. Lanky yet athletic enough to hold off a man. He could hold up the play but could also dribble with the ball, but he didn't really put up consistent numbers every single season, you know. He wasn't a 20 goal per season striker, but he was still, in my opinion, a very skillful striker, and I really appreciate him for his time at Arsenal. Obviously, he ruined it when he went to Man City and celebrated in front of the Arsenal crowd, but he still had a very good career in the Premier League. And from seeing Guirassy's highlights, you know, he's looking a bit Adebayor-esque. He is 27 in his prime years. He's been around for a while. We are not seeing this young, promising striker come from nowhere, because he's been around, failing at the likes of Rennes and Cologne, and finally picking up his form at Stuttgart. But if we're looking into the future, I don't think this consistency can stay, you know. I don't think he's going to go 5 seasons being this good. But for the time being, outscoring the likes of Harry Kane, Haaland, and even me, he's doing pretty well. From his goal contributions, you can see that the man has techers, because these goals aren't just easy tap-ins. There are volleys. He is even shooting from outside the box. He is running in behind. He is, you know, controlling it from all these angles and putting it in the back of the net. He is a clinical striker, and I think there are a lot of clubs that are crying out for this archetype of player. Strikers are in hot demand right now because there aren't a lot of world-class ones. But when a striker like this comes out of the bushes, you know, just comes and surprises people, of course people are going to hype him up. He may have 14 goals in 8 games, but then finish the season with 17 goals, but still he has shown his capabilities. But I hope that when he comes back from injury, he can continue this form for the entire season. Right now he is going up against Harry Kane in the league, in my opinion the best striker in world football, and he is outscoring him. Can Jurassic keep up this form, or is it just temporary? Is this guy just a world-class striker that was hidden behind a closet? We won't know until the end of the season, but people need to start talking about this guy. He needs to be in the conversations for a striker that should be moving to your club. With the likes of Ivan Toney possibly getting a move, Osimhen and even Sesko, this guy's name should be added into the bunch of strikers that your club probably needs. And I'm pretty sure that this summer he will leave, and from there we'll see what he's really capable of when he's doing it in the elite levels of football. Players don't have seasons like this all the time, and there are many valid cases of a player coming onto the scene, scoring 25 goals in the season and then just disappearing. Look at the likes of Michu for Swansea in the Premier League. Same sort of thing. Came in, did his bit, banged in all these goals, disappeared. So hopefully he doesn't turn out like that. Hopefully this is a striker that could put his name in the ballot and become world class. Now the top scorers in football today are the likes of Harry Kane and Erling Haaland. These guys that completely obliterate the strikers that I mentioned in this video when you talk about just the number game. But these strikers are just outliers in an era that strikers are kind of fading away, as teams are slowly but surely using strikers less, with only few having a claim to be called world class. And I think it's an incredible contrast when looking back at this time where strikers, again, were freaks of nature, because the list of strikers that you can talk about that played during the 90s and early 2000s absolutely topple over strikers in football that are playing today. You had the English bagsman himself, Alan Shearer, that was playing again during the 90s and late 90s. You also had the likes of Hernan Crespo scoring 26 goals for the likes of Lazio, and this guy was a freak of nature. He had the athletic ability to just out jump defenders. If you see some of his goals, it looks like he could just be taken and put into the modern game. You also had someone like Christian Vieri, aka Bobo, who again showed dominance during his peak years. And I haven't even talked about the likes of R9, George Weah and Thierry Henry, who all, their careers spanned during this time, the 90s and the early 2000s. R9, when he first came about, was the guy. From PSV to Barcelona to Inter Milan, wherever he went, goals followed. And this wasn't just during his club time too. It was when he went to Brazil. He was literally winning them the World Cup by himself. In his 96/97 season for Barcelona, he got 34 goals in 37 games. And if you want to dive even further into just this poaching ability that strikers during this era had, look at Raul, with over 200 goals whilst playing in La Liga for Real Madrid. Before all the superstars joined, Raul was the guy. And if you're still not convinced, during this same era, we had Shevchenko, who went on to win a Ballon d'Or. We had Trezeguet, who, helped France internationally. And what I'm really trying to get at is that modern strikers are just a shadow of the past. Because online, there's a lot of murmurs that strikers during the 2000s wouldn't be able to keep up with the strikers of today. And if you look at the general landscape of strikers in football right now, honestly, it's appalling. There's a bucket full of like 7 strikers that you could kind of claim to be world class, and that's it. But back during this time, every other team had a striker that was absolutely balling out, and that's why you had standout seasons where strikers were winning the top goal scorer award whilst playing for a team that wasn't even one of the best in the league. So essentially, strikers during the 2000s were freaks of nature, and you can't tell me otherwise. But again, you look at the 2010s, you look at these guys, yeah? Maybe that's another video for another day. Now, thank you guys for watching that entire video. I don't know if you are asleep right now or you actually stayed around and watched the entire thing in the background while you were playing games or studying or doing homework. But what I can say is that I'm grateful for you watching this video. And of course, recently we actually hit 100,000 subscribers. I was supposed to do a Q&A, and a lot of people were telling me to do a Q&A. I even put out a video asking for questions, but honestly, that's just really not my vibe. Like, I don't really like to speak to the camera. I don't really want to make a video like that. So I have massive videos coming for the last quarter of this year, and I'm gonna just tell you guys in this video. We've obviously got more ball knowledge to fall asleep to. I think I'm gonna do one during Christmas, like in a Santa outfit or something, and it's gonna be like actually recorded. It's not just going to be old clips. I want to do another generational runs in football video, another 10 out of 10 performances in football video. I want to do a bunch of 2000s era stuff too, and maybe we might do another 2010s video too. But it's all down to how hard I'm going to work in these last months, which would end off a year that would be my first full year since, you know, getting fired from my job. But yeah, this next year is going to be about expanding this YouTube channel and seeing how far we can get. And you know what? Maybe I'll do a Q&A for Christmas. Like during that period of time, maybe I'll just pump out a little Q&A for you guys. Because I know a lot of people want my advice. They email me about how to make my videos. There's people on Instagram that literally DM me telling me that they're going to copy my videos and they want me to tell them how to do it. Like, at least pay me. Why would I help you copy my videos? It makes no sense. Anyways, if you're still around at this rant bit, just ignore what I'm saying. I'm going to get cancelled anyway. So I'll see you in the next video, guys. Stay safe, stay blessed, and peace.